Okay, students, today's class will be first about me understanding from you what all you are aware of in the related area and how you perceive microbes. Why do you think microbiology is important, or how do you think you can benefit from the course? These are certain questions that you will be answering today. So I encourage you to share your views, like I said, not just in this class, but throughout the course. Then I will add whatever little I know about the significance of microbes and studying microbiology. This is important before we plunge into the intricacies of the course so that you can get a perspective as to why this course is in your curriculum. So first, I would like to know from you, what do you understand by the term microbes or microorganisms? Raise your hands, please. Vishantan.
Microbes are basically organisms which are too small to be visible to the naked eye.
Too small, matlab? Any range?
Uh, like micro is pretty much like 10 to the power minus 6. So in around that range.
So you cannot see them by your naked eyes. This is what you mean to say.
Yeah.
Anybody else? What are microbes? Come on, you have to start telling me what you know about it. Some of you did say you were interested in biology, and you have come across, I mean, in this era, you definitely know the impact of microbes. I'm still waiting for one of you to tell me what is microbes as per their view. ठीक है, दीपांशु वर्मा. Dipanshu. This is going to be an interactive class and I'll be taking names. Maybe I'll also ask you to turn on your camera. Okay, so Dipanshu is absent. Gopika Arora.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me, Gopika, what do you understand by microbes? It is not a scientific term at all. It's more of a general, a term for general use. Tell me.
I think like what Shantan said, tiny organisms which are not visible by naked eye. You probably need a microscope.
Kaushik,
you probably need a microscope to see that.
Okay, thank you, Gopika. Kaushik, have you seen microbes till your 10th class? Okay, Kaushik is absent. Pratham Bansal.
I haven't seen.
Kaushik, you haven't?
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing under the microscope?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Pratham Bansal.
I also have a similar definition that nothing new to add to it.
But have you seen microorganisms?
Yes, ma'am, I have seen them through a microscope.
Where?
I guess in the school, labs.
Yeah, but what kind of organisms? In the microscope, under the microscope.
Pardon?
What kind of organisms?
Like bacteria, viruses.
Any particular name?
In general, like I have seen, I have no recollection of a particular name.
Okay. Let's see. Shalini?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you seen microbes?
No, ma'am, I haven't seen.
Really? Can I have a raise of hand for all those who have never seen microbes? Okay, okay. So, towards the end of the class, we'll have this question again. I'll pose this question again. Okay. Anyway, so now you can lower your hand. An organism that is microscopic is a microbe. So you rightly said that. It is visible only when you use some aid. It is not visible by naked eyes. Now, microorganisms, they belong to different groups like bacteria, fungi, algae, archaea, or even protists. The term microorganisms does not include viruses. Why? Anybody has an idea why? Raise of hands. Abhay Agarwal.
Defined organelles, cell organelles.
I could not get you. Once again, Abhay. Why are viruses not included under microorganisms when you say they are microscopic and you cannot see them by naked eyes? Ratnesh Kumar Sharma.
Ma'am, because viruses does not have all protoplasm and so-called cytoplasm, etc., etc. Only they are living in the when they come to our body or any other animal's body or plant's body, but they are non-living when they are not in anybody.
Good. Udita, you want to add something?
Yeah, I have the similar definition. Like they're not living and they're not even non-living, so they cannot be considered under microbes. They don't have their own cells.
Satyakam? Yeah.
Same definition, ma'am, that they don't have their cells of their own, so like they are not strictly living organisms.
Vishantan? Raise your hands if you have something to add, okay? Vishantan?
Basically, because they're just viruses are just genetic material like enclosed in a protein coat, and they don't have any definite structure or function as per se.
Devapriya?
Ma'am, they cannot reproduce by themselves and need the functions of other cells such as bacteria, etc. to reproduce.
Sorry. I couldn't get you, Devapriya. Please repeat. Can you repeat that, Devapriya?
Ma'am, you're not audible.
I'm waiting for you to answer because I could not hear your answer, Devapriya.
Ma'am, I said that viruses cannot reproduce by themselves. They need the functions of other cells to reproduce.
Okay. Yeah, so they are generally classified as non-living. Okay. And why they're considered classified as non-living? Because they do not meet the basic definition of life. You said they could not reproduce and they do not have a protoplasm and cytoplasm. Just to give you an example, one of the feature of living organisms is their response to environment, and most viruses do not meet this feature, but this is just one of them. Moreover, like you said, they cannot replicate without a host cell. So you will notice that when we cover microbial classification or taxonomy, virus will not be a part of it. However, like I mentioned in the last class, they are a part of the syllabus, not just because of their economic importance, more so in the current scenario, but also because they have a role to play in introducing diversity in bacteria. So how they do so, we'll discuss when we take up bacterial genetics. What are viruses? How are they organized and stuff? This will take up when we talk of bacterial genetics. Now, when we say that microbes are microscopic, where exactly do they stand in terms of their size? Here is a comparative scale. And you can see that a typical bacterial cell actually is smaller than a plant or an animal cell and slightly larger than some of the biomolecules like proteins or lipids. In fact, if you notice, a bacterium is approximately the size of a mitochondrion. What is a mitochondria?
Powerhouse of the cell.
Sorry?
Powerhouse of the cell.
I would, okay. I would request you not to post messages in the chat. As of now, I cannot really keep a track of what is being posted as in the chat. If you have something to say, please raise your hand. Okay, I just realized that there are people posting. Yes, so mitochondria are special structures. It's the powerhouse of the cell, like you said. It is a structure found inside animal and plant cell, or let's say in a eukaryotic cell in general, with a dedicated function. So you call such structures as organelles. Why organelles? Because it's a perfect analogy which can be drawn with an organ, that is the part of an organism with a dedicated function. I've also placed the coronavirus, if you can see, just to give you an idea of the dimensions. Now, having defined the boundaries of what is a microorganism, I would like to know how you perceive them, right? So, most of you say that you have not seen the microorganism. Can now, so I see that Udita has and somebody else has also messaged that you have come across microorganism in your day-to-day life. Again, I would like to have a raise of hands for giving me examples of where do you commonly come across these tiny organisms. Udita, you want to elaborate?
Yeah, sure. So, like as Dhwani has mentioned, that all of us must have seen bread mold or the yeast that we see when the bread gets moist and fungi attacks it. So, I recently saw this like two fully grown mushrooms in the moist area of my kitchen, and yeah, so I recently encountered with a microorganism, which
Yes,
was visible
this
to
is
my naked
exactly
eye.
what I wanted from you. You have been, yeah. So the definition stands true still?
Not really.
Okay, anyway, why have people lowered down their hands now? There's nothing other than the mushrooms that Udita saw and the bread mold. Abhinav Thapa.
Ma'am, lactobacillus, the bacteria used in making curd.
Correct. Yes. What else? तुम लोग अपना हाथ लोअर क्यों कर ले रहे हो? ध्वनि.
Ma'am, you just asked if the definition held true, and I still think it does because we are able to see the microorganisms because they band together and not because I mean individually that one cell wouldn't have been visible to us otherwise. They're just visible because they band together, so the definition holds true still.
Thank you, Dhwani. Ratnesh.
But ma'am, can the mushrooms which we see here and there, are they not microorganisms?
They are very much microorganisms. Just like Udita said, they are very much microorganisms, and Dhwani even clarified it is not one cell that we are seeing. What we are actually observing is a colony or cells coming together that you're able to see. In fact, you will be surprised to see that even, I mean, there are major impacts that microorganisms do that are very much visible. So, but during the course, you will realize, so we will also cover fungi, we will see what the structure is. What is it that you're actually seeing? When you see a mushroom, you're seeing just the fruiting body of that particular fungus. Okay, not a particular cell. ठीक है रत्नेश? और कोई एग्जाम्पल? लैक्टोबैसिलस हो गया, मशरूम हो गया, राइजोपस. एनीबडी एल्स? Where have you encountered very closely, have you encountered microorganisms? These are all beneficial things except rhizopus. So you talked about mushrooms, which are edible as well. You talked about lactobacillus, which is also a friend. Now tell me something about the foes. Do you know of some non-beneficial or harmful bacteria or microorganisms? Coronavirus को छोड़ के उसको नहीं count कर रहे हैं नरेंद्र?
Ma'am, illness like influenza are also considered as bacterial infections.
Yes. Correct. Yes, they're responsible for a number of diseases, whether it is plant diseases or animal diseases. Ratnesh Kumar Sharma, tell me. रत्नेश बताओ, कुछ ऐड करना है? Okay. So from all your examples, you realize that you have encountered microorganisms. It's not just about, Priya, tell me.
Ma'am, Plasmodium.
Yes. What about Plasmodium?
It is a microorganism that causes malaria.
Good. Arish?
Ma'am, the layer of fungi that accumulates over a pond or still water body that is still, ma'am,
Yes,
due
it
to
is
that.
not generally fungi. It is usually an algal bloom, but I'll take this. So you have seen microorganisms. Yes, इसके पहले सारे कोई भी नहीं hand raise कर रहा था क्योंकि lab में नहीं देखा था, है ना? और कोई? ठीक है, so basically this has tickled some of your gray cells and you're trying to see what microorganisms you have encountered. Now, if I show you this picture, how many of you can tell me further applications? So most of you mentioned this. You mentioned about the bread mold which you've seen. You have come across mushrooms which you might have had. What are these? Right uppermost thing that you see on trees or plants, higher plants, Arish? Okay. So diseases, some of you mentioned. तुम लोग लोअर कर रहे हो फिर रेज कर रहे हो. एक बार रेज रखो रतीश, बोलो फिर.
These are lichens.
Correct. These are lichens. What are lichens?
Lichens are in lichens we have fungi and algae are co-living.
It is a close association. Yes. So
yes.
It is a close association between fungi and algae, and you see some
Yes.
structures like this on trees. I mean, these are very common structures. This is a typical lichen. Then you have seen. Have you seen these nodules in plant roots?
No, ma'am, we have not seen.
No. Have
These
you
are
legumes सुना है?
yes, ma'am. These are rhizobiums which found in pulse.
ठीक है रत्नेश, lower your hand. So these are basically nodules in which rhizobium resides, which is a nitrogen fixing organism. Have you heard of bioplastics, students? No. It's a sustainable means of making plastics using bacteria. Some of the bacteria are plastic forming, so or they make certain polymers which can be used as bioplastic. And I'm sure you are aware what is contributing to this alcohol in any of these beverages.
Fermentation.
Correct, Abhinav. Fermentation, does that involve microorganisms?
Yeast.
Yes.
Yeast.
Yeah. Correct. Probiotics you must have had. One of you said that you see the scum on water bodies, which is also actually algal blooms. Then a lot of antibiotics have been derived from, or they are synthesized by microorganisms. So Today we are going to talk about special features of microorganisms that may or may not have struck you despite your regular interaction with microorganisms. And basically, I'm trying to emphasize to you 2 points which are debatable, which can we will actually have a debate on these 2 points if you have any objections. But these points are that microbes rule the world, and that they are such beautiful organisms in terms of their success stories that they can offer a lot to learn. In fact, a large part of them is still mysterious. Okay. The story starts some 3.7 billion years ago in a condition as hostile as the absence of oxygen, the presence of toxic gases, abundance of carbon dioxide. Life originated in the form of these simple organisms which were microscopic. Now, most recently, Canadian scientists have reported that the discovery of microfossils ages them between 3.77 billion and 4.29 billion years old. This is definitely a radical claim, which might change the picture quite a bit. Basically, it implies that life originated shortly after Earth was formed. Now, because the primordial conditions were devoid of oxygen, the first microbes were anaerobic. These were followed by photosynthetic microorganisms which oxygenated the Earth's atmosphere. This is called as the Great Oxygenation Event. I'm sure you've heard of this. It is the microbes which played a pivotal role in shaping the environment such that other life forms could come up. So basically, microorganisms paved the way for higher organisms on planet Earth. Cells started coming together, cooperating with each other, understanding the importance of such a lifestyle vis-a-vis their unicellular free living existence. So these clusters of specialized cells eventually formed multicellular organisms. So I believe you will not object to me saying that microbes are our ancestors. Anybody who would like to object to this, say something, add to this? If not, here I'm showing you a picture from a recent article describing an archaea, which is also a prokaryotic organism as our ancestor. This would probably have created a picture to you of their flexibility and their diversity in terms of their metabolism and even functionality. This is just one aspect of microorganisms. Another important aspect is their sheer dominance in terms of their diversity and abundance. Until recently, when assessing the diversity of life on Earth, it was estimated that Earth houses nearly 10 million species. With the recent advancements, if you only consider microorganisms, recent reports suggest that Earth might be home to close to 1 trillion microorganism species. If this is to be believed, you can imagine the little biodiversity that we have probably unraveled on Earth till now. And I have to tell you that this is a picture which has evolved just in the last decade. Further, here are some numbers to enchant you. You might find discrepancy between scientists in terms of the exact numbers. However, it definitely gives you an idea of what range are we referring to. It is estimated that 1 gram of dental plaque will contain approximately 1 into 10 to the power 11 bacteria. This is roughly the same number of humans that have ever lived. All those numbers and all that information about their diversity, let me now know from you, what do you think would be conditions that would prove hostile for microorganisms? Where do you think there will be no microorganisms? If you can give me examples. Tell me.
Inside a volcano,
You will not find microorganisms. Why?
because the temperature is very high.
Because the temperature is very high. Good. Anybody else? Can you think of certain areas or certain systems or conditions where there will be no microbes?
In the space.
In space, you will not have microorganisms. And why do you say that?
Because there will be no food, etc.
ये कैसे पता तुमको? चलो स्पेस हो गया, वोल्केनो हो गया, और कुछ? वोल्केनो क्योंकि हाई टेम्परेचर है, स्पेस क्योंकि प्रॉब्ली यू सेइंग न्यूट्रिएंट लिमिटेशन होगा, फूड नहीं मिलेगा, और कुछ?
मैम वॉल्केनोस वगैरह क्या वो सरवाइव कर सकते हैं मतलब ऐसा शायद, क्योंकि पहले भी तो जब अर्थ बनी ही थी तो उस टाइम भी बहुत ज्यादा वो मतलब हाई टेम्परेचर था अपने यहाँ
तो
पे
अभिनव
CO2
वेरी राइटली पॉइंटेड आउट, मैंने कहा इसीलिए मैंने एवोल्यूशन से स्टार्ट किया. हाँ, द कंडीशंस यू आर अवेयर ऑफ ड्यूरिंग द प्राइमोर्डियल अर्थ, एंड यू हैव प्रॉब्ली आल्सो हर्ड ऑफ द प्राइमोर्डियल सूप, इट इज आफ्टर मेंशनिंग दैट, इसीलिए मैंने रेस किया. अभिनव, थैंक यू फॉर पॉइंटिंग आउट. एनीबडी एल्स? तो चलो वोल्केनो में तो तुम कह रहे हो कि हो सकता है. ओके, जस्कीन?
Recently, we heard of tardigrades that can survive even harsh climatic conditions and in space also.
Correct. In space also tardigrades. ठीक है. That answers one of the other students' point. Anybody else? तो स्पेस में भी तुम अग्री कर रहे हो, वोल्केनो में भी तुम अग्री कर रहे हो, और कोई भी और कंडीशन जहां तुम सोच सकते हो इतने होस्टाइल कंडीशंस हो वेयर माइक्रो ऑर्गेनिजम्स विल नॉट बी फाउंड?
मैम बट वोल्केनोज में मोल्टन मेटल में तो नहीं सर्वाइव कर सकते हैं ना माइक्रो ऑर्गेनिजम्स.
तो कहाँ सर्वाइव करेंगे? वही तो टेम्परेचर है जहाँ सर्वाइव करेंगे ना.
हाँ,
Anyway,
मतलब
पहले तुम लोग बताओ कि क्या कंडीशंस है जो तुम्हें लगता है. तो तुम्हें लगता है उतने हाई टेम्परेचर पे वो सर्वाइव नहीं करेगा, राइट?
मैम या लाइक 150 डिग्रीज 200 डिग्री सेल्सियस से ऊपर तो नहीं सर्वाइव करेंगे.
ओके, ठीक है. और कुछ?
आउटर स्पेस जहाँ बिल्कुल सनलाइट नहीं है.
मे बी सोलर फ्लेयर्स और गामा रेडिएशन से ना सरवाइव कर पाए.
ठीक है, टॉक्सिक रेडिएशन से ना सर्वाइव कर पाए. ओके, आउटर स्पेस जब तुम कह रहे हो तो यू नो व्हाट, देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ mystery involved. I mean, we do not know the condition out there, so you cannot, I mean, you can assume that they might not be there, but for sure you cannot put up a point here. Jaski?
I'm sorry, ma'am. Can you repeat?
No, it's just the question. I thought you want to say something. Anyway, so microbes and prokaryotes, specifically the unicellular ones, are omnipresent. They can be found literally everywhere in soil, air, water, to harsher conditions like thermal springs, the ocean floor where hardly any light penetrates, acid lakes, deserts, human body, so on and so forth. I mean, you just name it. In fact, 3 years back, there was a study wherein a microorganism was identified from an international space station. They were studying the microbiome of the space stations once it returns. And there were also studies performed wherein some Russian scientists claimed to have gathered microbes from sampling conducted during spacewalks. I would not really like to elaborate on this. There's a lot of controversy also attached to this. But there are reports of microorganisms being found in all such systems. Here are some interesting articles that talk about the extremities wherein microorganisms can survive or they have been found, like volcanic eruptions under conditions heavily exposed to radiation. So, for example, the Chernobyl fields have found to have organisms, and even in the Dead Sea. Now, why is Dead Sea important? Why do you call it the Dead Sea? Anybody?
It's so saline that no life, like no major life forms can survive in that environment.
Correct. The salinity level is too high. Okay. Even under those conditions, so under such halophilic conditions also, we find microorganisms. In fact, such organisms which thrive in conditions which are otherwise hostile for higher organisms are called as extremophiles. They are known to test the limits of life. These extremophiles, which are mostly archaea, and we'll study them in detail, are found in severe conditions like hyperthermophiles, which have been found in the range of 80 to 120 degrees centigrade, and psychrophiles in the range of -15 to approximately 10 degrees centigrade. What this tells us is the range for adaptation. In fact, these extremophiles are still enigmas that microbiologists are trying to understand. Their robustness, their adaptability, all this offers a number of lessons for humans. Now, this directly relates to you. I'm not sure if you're aware of the fact that almost every higher organism is now viewed not as an individual but as a holobiont or a meta-organism, that is the higher organism together with the microorganisms in intimate association with the host. It has been realized that such an association is inseparable. In fact, the functionality of the higher organism is a result of this association, without which a number of functions may be compromised. Like I jotted down in one of the slides earlier, humans have 10 times more bacteria than the total number of human cells. You might be surprised to know that the human microbiota, that is the collection of microbes that humans harbor, has even been considered by some to be an essential organ, carrying approximately 100 times more genes than in the human genome. But then this actually poses a question. What do you mean when you say we are humans? What does the entity mean? Can you define humans as simply a collection of cells with the same genetic material? Because human cells make up only 43% of the body's total cell count. The rest are all microbes. Did you know about this concept of meta-organism or holobiont? Anybody? You must have heard about it. No raise of hands? Okay. So with the extensive research being undertaken in studying human microbiota interactions, it is now understood that the microbiome is actually linked to digestion, to mental health, as well as diseases including bowel disease, Parkinson's, even depression, obesity, autism, you name it, even on our mood. In fact, the gut microbiome is believed to control our overall wellness and diseases. Now, another interesting concept that has evolved in the last couple of years is the idea of human personalized microbial cloud. This theory believes that humans emit their own personal microbial cloud at the rate of 10 to the power 6 biological particles per hour. Airborne microbes we emit into the air is being referred to as a microbial cloud. Now you can understand that such a conclusion opens up the possibility of employing this aspect in forensics, for example, to track a person, if it's actually a signature for the particular person. Again, this is a study which I thought might interest you, wherein a comparison of bacterial load or abundance of bacteria has been made on various surfaces in a closed environment, in this case an office. And it was found that the number of bacteria on surfaces like the telephone receiver or a cupboard knob was way higher than the number of bacteria found on toilet seats. Now, it's not just the humans which have a dependence on microbes, and to such a large extent, like I mentioned, most of the higher organisms have such a tight association. When you are asked to describe a cow, you would say it's a four-legged ruminant, right? It has a special feature that it can digest cellulose. But when you look at what is enabling it to digest cellulose, you will realize that it is a property of the cellulose degrading microorganisms in its gut. So if you hypothetically have a cow which is devoid of cellulose degrading microbes, will you still call it a cow? What I mean to say here is that the definition of the entity, whether it is humans, plants, or animals, is in question if the microorganisms are excluded. here comes the next point which makes them interesting from an economic standpoint. Microbes, by virtue of a number of features, which I will talk about in a minute, serve as mini factories to produce a number of compounds of our benefit. Their inherent ability can be manipulated so as to direct them to synthesize compounds, and these can be utilized on the commercial scale as well. This is the essence of using microbes in biotechnology. These could range from antibiotics to pigments, flavors, aroma compounds, etc. Then, due to the fact that they are omnipresent and in such huge numbers, they impact the entire biosphere, performing some crucial steps in maintaining the ecosystem, in controlling biogeochemical cycles, thereby supporting life of higher organisms. With less than 1% of microorganisms being pathogenic to humans, largely they exert a beneficial impact on different aspects of the ecosystem, whether it is agriculture, health, or bioremediation. Now the question is, so of course you know about this impact that a virus has had on the global economy. The question is, what makes them so successful? There are several reasons contributing to the immense potential. Their simpler structure, small size, fast reproduction all contribute to their adaptability to harsher conditions. They even have the ability to evade certain stresses by temporarily incorporating newer genetic material and later getting rid of it when normal situation prevails. We will be studying about it when we talk of plasmids in one of the classes. And why are they preferred as cell factories? Some of the features I already mentioned. To add to that, they are easy to manipulate with a relatively simpler genetic material and well characterized metabolic pathways. We can actually direct them towards certain metabolic processes for synthesis of desired compounds. You will be studying a lot of it in advanced courses like recombinant DNA technology. A couple of our faculty members also have expertise in metabolic engineering of microorganisms. This is just a pictorial depiction of the different sectors where microorganisms have been utilized to show you how these organisms form the crux of biotechnology. So microbial processes can be employed for cleaning up the environment as they contribute to biodegradation or bioremediation of different kinds of waste, domestic, agricultural, and industrial. They serve to meet certain UN sustainability development goals like having a eco-friendly sustainable means of production of biofuels or biodiesels and so on and so forth. I've also put on another depiction to show you the application of microbes. Now, having shown you the tip of the iceberg, I would now like to have answers from you as to why you think studying microbiology is important. Tell me, what did you get from whatever I mentioned to you till now? Or how can you utilize this information? Raise your hands, students. I'm sure in this class you would have understood was the entire class was to bring out the fascinating world of microbes before we actually start with the hardcore technicalities. I am sure it would have tickled your gray cells or amazed you with certain facts about microbes. So tell me, how exactly now, after this information, do you think microbiology can help you? Come on, students. Okay, then I'll start taking names. Ankit, Raj, Anshu. Paras, tell me.
I'm finding out what a microorganism can help in which ways a microorganism can help particular organ or particular species in the world.
तो उससे क्या होगा? How will that help?
मैम अगर एक माइक्रो ऑर्गेनिज्म का एक काम, जैसे हम किसी एक काम पे उसे हम यूज़ कर रहे हैं, तो क्या पता वो किसी और काम में भी यूज़ हो सके
ठीक है, तो
हम
उसकी
उस
थरो
पर फोकस नहीं कर
अंडरस्टैंडिंग
पा रहे।
तुम्हारा प्रोस्पेक्ट बढ़ाएगा टू यूज इट इन बायोटेक्नोलॉजी. इज दैट व्हाट यू मीन टू से?
यस मैम.
ठीक है, गुड. एनीबडी एल्स? देव प्रिया.
Ma'am, we can, ma'am, by studying microbiology, we can better understand the microbes, and if they cause any diseases, then we can know how to treat them or better manage those diseases.
Okay, so basically you mean to say you want to harness the potential of microorganisms, and to do that you need to study them, right?
Yeah, and
And
especially
you pointed out the medical, you pointed out the medical sector. Shresht.
Ma'am, we can use when we know how the microorganism works, then we can use them in industry also.
कैसे? Which kind of industry?
लाइक लैक्टोबैसिलस का हमें काम पता है कि वो फिर मतलब मिल्क में यूज आता है, तो हम उसको मतलब मिल्क फैक्ट्री में यूज कर सकते हैं.
तो ये तो तुम मतलब एस्टैब्लिश्ड फैक्ट बता रहे हो ना, कुछ और बोलो. Of course, ये वही चीज हुआ कि you are trying to understand the potential, so that biotechnology is all about using micro organisms, right? And their features or their products. Udita?
Yeah. So basically, I have always had these rural immersion trips, and I used to understand how I could actually pay my contribution into the agricultural sector. So after looking at the facts that you've mentioned, I would like to study microbiology to basically get to know more about how microbiology can help in the agricultural sector.
Okay. So actually, what I'm intrigued with is that I would like to learn from these experts. I mean, I consider them experts. If they are able to survive in such harsh conditions, if they're able to flourish in such conditions, there's a lot that humans have to learn from them. Don't you think so? And that will, of course, help us in, for example, if you know of an organism that can survive the extremities in outer space, won't that help us design things for our astronauts to be able to survive, or human beings to be, or scientists, let's say, to be able to survive such conditions in outer space? I mean, there are a lot of things that you can actually think of from whatever information, just from what information I have given you. Okay, there are two PhD students sitting through this course, so I would like to now invite them to help us understand how will this course benefit them, especially in their research quests. So, Sarthak and Rituraj, please briefly describe your respective project and tell us why do you want to sit through this course? One by one. Rituraj, you want to go first?
Hello friends, so myself Rituraj, I am a PhD scholar in geotechnical engineering, civil engineering department, and I'll be working on the bacteria for producing the biocementation within the soil through using of the potential bacteria such as Sporosorchida pasteurii, Pseudomonas aborrensis. These kind of bacteria are very helpful in binding the soil particles together, and under harsh condition they can survive. So I'll be working on that. So that's why I was also interested in taking this course to get a hands on the various aspects of microbiology and how it will be helping me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rituraj. Sarthak, what about your project and how do you think microbiology is going to help you?
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Sarthak. I will be working on basically biomedical applications of plasma physics. This will deal with the sterilization of microorganism using plasma. As we all know, there are existing some technologies on sterilization. Uh, s- uh, th- uh, that existing sterilization is not helpful in basically killing of multi-drug resistance pathogens. That for that thing, we will be using plasma technology in that. So to work on that, I need some knowledge about microbiology part, basically on pathogens, their external structure, how they are cultured in labs. That's why I have taken the course.
Okay, thank you, Sarthak. That was great to know. Before I actually end, I see no more raised hands. I have just mentioned some interesting articles that I could find related to the diversity of microorganisms, some interesting aspects. So, very recently, I mean, this is from July. If you see, scientists have been working towards awakening deep sea bacteria that they say, which have been preserved for like 100 million years. So this made a very interesting read. Then, if you see, these are algal blooms of the Californian coast, and there was an article I saw wherein they actually stress upon the importance of microbes and how they help shape the entire climate. So this was another paper. Another article was on how cyanobacteria could cause mass elephant die-off. So you can see the impact, the large impact that these tiny organisms might exert. Some further articles, I mean, of course, these articles give you evaluation, but this is just to incite you, just to show to you the importance. Again, this was a National Geographic article that I found interesting. Here is a paper from an article from NASA, wherein they've talked about space station microbes. So maybe you can go through this as well. And there's just a very short video also that I would like to share. Udita, I finally found out what went wrong with last time, so probably I'll be able to share it now, after which we will end the class. Okay, just give me a minute. One of you has to tell me once I play, just tell me, or maybe message whether you can hear the audio.
I want to first of all thank everybody here at New England Biolabs for the opportunity to tell you today about my passion for science and about the beauty of the microbial world, about the beauty of this world of all these organisms that are all around us that are too small for us to see. And I want to start this story here in Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming. Yellowstone is the oldest national park in the United States. And what makes it so very special, one of the reasons, is that it contains over half of the geothermal features on the entire planet. So if we zoom in here to one of these geyser basins within Yellowstone, we see Grand Prismatic Spring. And this is the largest hot spring in North America. The blue center of Grand Prismatic is boiling hot. And the heat inside of Grand Prismatic, if we trace it down into the Earth, we'll first find some huge magma chambers, two of them actually, just a few kilometers below the surface. Below that, this heat in those magma chambers is actually derived from the actual core of the Earth. So this is a truly special place on Earth where we can get a glimpse into what Earth looked like when it first formed and into what other planets might look like. And the edge of the Grand Prismatic Spring, where you see the brilliant oranges and yellows and reds, these are microbial mats formed by the only organisms that can live in this environment, thermophilic or heat-loving microbes. So as beautiful as Grand Prismatic is during the day, from this view, you can see all the tourists down there. I want to tell you about an experience that I had this past summer where I went on a microbial science photography expedition to Yellowstone with my brother, who is there. That's his headlamp on the boardwalk. And so here, all of the tourists are gone. We had all of Grand Prismatic and nearby Excelsior Geyser to ourselves. And it's a really beautiful and special time and place to be at Grand
Okay, so there have been issues again, right? It's probably the network issue, I guess. I will post the link to this video, which you can see at your own whenever you have your whenever you find time. But are there any questions? If not, we will then end this meeting, and in the next class we'll talk a little about the history of microbiology, and from next week onwards we will take up the cell structure. Okay, so I don't see anybody raising hands. Then class, thank you very much. Devpriya, tell me.
Ma'am, where will the lectures be uploaded?
Like I said, I will upload it on Impartus, but as of now you can see it here as well. I mean on the Teams link, right? On the channel.
Okay.
Okay. ठीक है, चलो then. Bye everybody.